Hi everyone, my name is Georgia and I work for the Study in Sweden team at the Swedish Institute. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're going to have a live stream about an insider's view on academic studies in Sweden. We're going to be joined by two wonderful students who are both studying two different programs at different universities in Sweden, and they're going to tell you a little bit about what student life is like over here and what you can expect when you come to Sweden and study. We're going to also be able to take questions live from people watching, but please keep in mind if you have questions about your eligibility or whether you are able to get a scholarship, etc., they're not questions that we're going to be able to answer live, unfortunately. But if you have any questions about the subject and specifically questions for our students, please ask away and we'll be happy to answer them for you today. So let's start by meeting our students. Hi.
Hello.
Hi. Thank you. Thank you very much for joining us. Would you like to start by introducing yourselves, your name, where you come from, what you're studying, and what university you study at? You can start, Ryan.
Yeah, sure. Hi, I'm Ryan Potter. I come from Michigan in the United States originally, and I am studying biomarkers and molecular medicine at the University of Skövde.
Okay. And Bashid, would you like to continue?
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Hello. And I'm Mohammad Bahasur Islam, and currently I'm studying in information system at Uppsala University. I come from Bangladesh, and I also work as a digital ambassador at Uppsala University.
Mm-hmm. That's where we met when I was working at Uppsala University. Yeah. Thank you very, very much for joining us today. I'm really happy to be able to talk to you. Let's start with you, Ryan. Could you tell me a little bit about your program and your university, please?
Yeah, so the University of Skövde is kind of one of the smaller, more specialized schools in Sweden. And so we have only we have a few programs in bioscience and data science and engineering, and so I chose the bioscience path. I'm a big fan of that. So my program mainly it's kind of a focus between taking biological data and then using big data techniques and statistical analysis in order to find information and patterns that are kind of buried in all of this massive amount of biological data. It's a lot of fun, a lot of machine learning type stuff.
Great. And you were telling me before that you've actually done your bachelor's degree here as well.
Yes, I did. I did a bachelor's in molecular biodesign, where we did a lot of hands-on stuff, especially in the wet lab, as they call it. And we got to use tools like CRISPR to modify DNA, and that also was a lot of fun.
Yeah. So how many years have you been here in total?
This is my 5th year now.
Wow. Okay. So you are an expert on studying in Sweden, I would say. And Bashid, can you tell me a little bit about your program and Uppsala University?
Yes. So I study information systems, and this subject actually closely related to informatics. So it has a broad range of different topics and stuff like that. So mainly we study how to incorporate technology and organizational needs. So most of our topics actually covers from like programming, designing, as well as research, how to develop our research, how to modify our research, what organizational needs we have right now, what are challenges we're going to face in the future. So it's like organizational needs meets technology. That's basically what I study.
Perfect. We have one question that's come in. Are there degree programs in English, especially looking for computer science engineering? I can answer that. Yes, in Sweden, there are over 1,000 English-speaking degree programs. And you two can attest to that. I'm assuming that
Yes.
you are studying completely in English?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. Okay, great. So I have a question for you about what it's been like studying here over the last 2 years almost. How has COVID affected your studies, and what's it been like for you to be an international student during such a strange time? Ryan?
Well, so it was obviously a big change because I did, have a lot of studying here before that. And so it was a shift when we started doing more of the online classes. And, we still had a few times that we were in the lab, but we'd have, like face shields and, have to keep distance and only a few people in the lab at a time. But I was kind of fortunate because a lot of my classes at the time that all of this started up were very amenable to doing via the computer. We started focusing more on the statistical analysis and those kind of tools anyways. So it wasn't so bad. You had to get used to the social aspect of meeting people over Zoom, but the work was still plenty doable.
Okay. And for you, Bashit, was it difficult to study here during COVID? Was it hard to get to know your classmates and things like that?
Yeah, last year was very challenging because all my classes were online. So we had to log into Zoom and talk to our lecturers as well as the classmates and everything. So you need to have a lot of focus because if you turn on the camera and then say, yeah, I'm present, and then turn off and watch YouTube, nobody gonna stop you. So it takes a lot of focus from your part as a student to keep focus on the class and the content and the material. So what I did is I used to turn on my camera and start taking class notes to keep me focused. And another point is there is no alternative, at least for me, to have human interaction face to face. So we have to do all of our projects and assignments online. So it's a little bit of tricky to get used to work as a team like that. My classmates are from different parts of the world, so I can say good morning. The other team member can say that okay, it's like nighttime. So time management was a big, very important, and also we don't know how we talk and how we interact with each other. So we constantly cutting each other off in a group call at the beginning, but over time we in different projects we overcome that obstacle.
Okay. So there's a question here that says, I've done my first degree in Nigeria. I'd like to ask, how many days a week am I likely to have classes for a Master's of Science in Mathematics? So when it comes to your course load, how heavy is it? Do you have classes every day? Is it from 9 to 5? How do you structure up your week in your programs? Ryan?
Well, at our university, anyways, the actual time spent in lectures and stuff is pretty small. I'd say maybe 8 to 10 hours a week on average, and a lot of focus is put on kind of self-motivation. You really have to organize for yourself, and so a lot of times that's with other people. You have group study and projects that you're working on and presentations that you're preparing, but it's not just sitting there listening to the teacher all the time. So I'd say an average student is spending about 30 hours a week, 40 hours a week working on studies, but it's not necessarily at the university or in a class per se.
Yeah. Okay. And Bashit, is that the same for you?
Yeah, more or less. So on average, I have 10 hours of lectures and workshop and labs and everything. But what we learn in those sessions, we had to go back and study, because a lot of the stuff we had to go through research paper, books, and self-study, and we had to write papers or projects and stuff like that. So we can actually look around 30 hours studying per week on top of 10 hours lectures, workshops, and labs.
Okay. So somebody has asked here, are there many master's students from outside of the EU? How would you say your classmates, so your student body is made up? Is it very international? Is it mostly Swedish? And where do most of your classmates come from, would you say? Bashit, you can start.
Yeah, so my class size was 45. We started with 45 people, and there's 10 of them are local students, Swedish, and the rest of the classes from different parts of the world. I got a classmate from African continent. I got a classmate from China, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka. It's a very international vibe. And with different backgrounds, so it was very interesting to meet them and work with them.
Okay. And what about you? How does your class and your student classmates look, Ryan?
Yeah, very much the same.
Mm?
I had in my bachelor's program, the mixture was a little bit more international and Swedes, kind of evenly balanced. But in the master's program, I have I think all international peers,
Oh,
and
wow.
they are from all over the place as well. We have people from India, we have people from Pakistan and Bangladesh, and I mean, some people from within the EU as well. We got people
Mm-hmm.
all over, all over.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Someone's asking, when does this live stream end? And we'll talk. We've put aside an hour, but I think we'll probably talk for about 40 to 45 minutes. Okay, so could you just describe a little bit about how you think the academic culture in Sweden compares to what you're used to from your home country? Bashit, how would you describe it?
Yeah, for me the answer would be a little bit longer because I studied different places. So from 12th standard I studied in Bangladesh. Then did my undergrad in Malaysia with a dual degree program with EW Bristol, and then I came here. So a difference between a lot of education structure I was experiencing before. The Swedish education system is quite different, because in a lot of cases what I have to do is, like previous courses, I have to go through a text or like slides and memorize it and go for an exam for 2 to 3 hours, right till my hands bleed, just to make a joke, and then we get graded for that. And then when I went to Malaysia, it was like more middle of the road. You still memorize, and then still there is a research element to it. You find things by yourselves and self-study. And in Sweden is more, nobody will pressure you to study. The lecturers are very friendly, and most of the time what in my classes is like, we have slides, but these are just to set the tone that what we're going to discuss today. More like you say, interaction both way. We do I have to do a lot of research by myself, read a lot of text, a lot of research paper, a lot of books, and work with a team, with a collaboration. And then we submit our presentation, and we defend our findings or projects with other people in our class. So this is like a way different than what I experienced before.
And did you find that difficult when you got here, learning to sort of study and learn in this new way than what you were used to back home?
It was a little bit challenging at first, but luckily when I came, I started having classes. So I actually had a Swedish course mate who actually know this system very well. So I just told them that, hey, I don't know this structure. I don't know how it works. Can you help me and to show me around? I'm not asking you to do my stuff for me, but help me around to navigate the whole scenario. And they actually helped me, and then that helped me a lot to understand the whole system, adapt to it, and now I'm almost done with my study. So almost yeah. So it became easy. It was difficult, but now it became easy.
And what about you, Ryan? How would you describe the academic culture in Sweden, and how would it compare to back home when you studied there?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I notice and I appreciate about it here is the flatness of the organization and the lack of a hierarchy. Like back home, it's very hierarchical, and so like the teacher is your clear superior, and it's like they're bestowing upon you the sacred knowledge or whatever, and here it's much more seen as like this team effort where we're all working together to carry on the flame and keep building the knowledge of human society, and like that is something that I really enjoy and I really get behind, because like we are all equals. Like they might have something I don't at the moment, but they're here to give it to me,
Okay, so we actually hear that quite a lot. People, international students who come to Sweden, say that the university hierarchy is very flat, as you put it, and also there's quite an informal relationship with the professors or the teachers. Would you agree with that? And do you think that's a positive thing, Ryan?
Absolutely. I mean, I've sit at the restaurant we have on campus and had coffee with my teachers, and I talked
Mm-hmm.
about things that weren't strictly class related. Like I
Mm-hmm.
would never do that back home. Like
Okay.
you just it would be unheard of.
Okay.
So yeah, it's a very casual environment. There's of course a degree of respect that's still there, but like
Mm-hmm.
you can be very comfortable.
Yeah. Okay. So I have a question. We touched upon the fact that you're studying in English before, but when it comes to living in Sweden, can you get by on English alone, do you think, or is it necessary to learn Swedish in order to live here and make friends and things like that? Bashit?
I would say most of the people in Sweden have very good command over English. I mean, they can speak very good English and they write excellent English as well. But if if you have a plan to stay here longer, then it's beneficial for you to learn the local language. Yes, you can get by with only speaking English. You can carry out a day-to-day activity, education, make friends, hang out with people. But if you want to work here, and want to live after your studies, then learning Swedish is very important.
Yeah. Okay. And would you agree, Ryan?
Yeah, I think it's unfortunately easy to get by in English. It makes it pretty difficult to learn Swedish because there's no pressure.
Yeah. Are you learning Swedish here?
Yes, a little bit. I mean, I don't use it much because, like I said, there's no pressure. But like I've gotten to the point where I can understand a bit of it.
Yeah. And are you learning through the university, or do you learn just from mixing in society with your friends and things like that?
I took a class. Our university offers one free class to kind of get you started, and then there's also SFE, which is run by the community, and I did that for a little while. But then after that, it's just been through being around people who
being here. Yeah. Okay. And have you had the opportunity to learn any Swedish, Bashit, from the university?
Yes, I finished the first course that offered by Uppsala University, and I sometimes use it to communicate with people, like going to the grocery, asking for price, what's the time, when is the bus is coming. So a little bit, but not that much.
Okay. I'll just answer a question from the audience. Somebody is asking about the application process. The application deadline is the 17th of January, but you also have the 1st of February as a deadline. Basically, when you apply to programs in Sweden, you apply by submitting an online application through university admissions. And the deadline for submitting this online application is 17th of January. After that, you have to also submit all of your supporting documents and pay an application fee if you're a non-EU student. And the deadline for receipt of all of these supporting documents, as well as the application fee, is 1st of February, sorry. So they're two different deadlines. Okay, so my next question would be about your accommodation. Where are you both living, and how hard was it to find accommodation? Did you get support from the university when you were looking for it? Ryan?
Yeah, so I'm currently living in one of the student dorms on campus. You can see a couple of doors behind me. I have one of the little bit larger ones. It's not a single room like some people have. And for that, it took me a while to get. So like it's if you want a thing that you specifically are looking for, then I think that it can be kind of difficult. But the university did help. I was never homeless here. Like they put me in a single room when I first got here, and like then I found another place, and then I found this place. So it's manageable, but you have to really be on top of things and get in the queues for what you want if you want to get there.
Yeah. What about you, Bashit? Where are you living, and how hard was it for you to arrange accommodation?
I currently live in Flogstad, which is like a student accommodation in Uppsala, and I applied through the university housing office. So it wasn't that difficult for me. I just clicked on the link in a specific day when it went live, and then I give the preferences, like that I want to share with people, or share with other people whether washroom would be shared or not, and then what's my budget range, and then I give preferences that this is first, second, and third, and then I submitted it, and after that was easy.
Okay. And you're living with other students in your student housing area?
Yes. So my corridor has like there's 11 more people lives in this corridor with me. So we have a shared kitchen, but each of the room has like their own washroom.
Okay. Okay, so Ryan, could you tell me what an average day looks like for you when you're in the middle of your studies?
A lot of coffee. Get up, have coffee, start working on something. I'm currently just starting into my thesis, so a lot of time is spent doing research on topics and preparing the proposal here. So then, of course, you got either in the morning or afternoon. I usually do the whole fika thing, because that's like what people do, which is just more coffee for those who don't know. But yeah, it's pretty different depending on the day, because it's mostly organized by me at this point, and so it's a schedule that I create for myself.
And what's it like living in a small town, because you're living in one of the smaller cities here?
Oh man, I love it. I
Yeah?
love it. It is just the perfect balance, because you have all of the things that you would need from a big city, but it's all within walking distance, and then just very green, a lot of parks and stuff, which I think is probably the same just about everywhere. But
Yeah.
I've really enjoyed it here for sure.
Okay. And Bashir, how would you describe an average day?
So when I have classes, my average day start pretty early because I'm a practicing Muslim. So I wake up around 5 a.m., pray, and then make coffee. And I drink a lot of coffee. See, that coffee is like a lifeblood. So then I plan my day according using an app called To Do List. So I make a checklist. So what I have to do, like if I have a lecture, if I have to work on an assignment, and I have to go to the library or university, then I go there to do my work, and then I come back around like 5-ish. And then one of the things I do regularly is like like academic life can be stressful, so I do certain stuff to de-stress myself, like talk to my friends. I have friends all over the world mostly, and then I talk to them via Discord or Skype, or play online games, and then I obviously I have lunch between that 1 to 5 in the morning to 5, and then if I have to go groceries shopping, and then I go to around like 6 to 7, and then I have dinner around like 9, and then go to bed around 12.
Okay.
So,
and you live in Uppsala, the same city
Yes.
that I live in, and it's
Yes.
actually the 4th biggest city in Sweden, I think. But compared to a lot of countries and cities outside of Sweden, it's still very small and compact. Would you
Yes.
agree?
Yes, but you can get all the facilities of a bigger cities and everything. And I love Uppsala because of it's super close to nature. You walk any direction 10 minutes and you will find nature, trees, and everything. This is one of the reasons that I forgot to mention that I go for morning walk or biking every morning. If it snows, rains, I don't miss it because it's so close to nature. It's so fresh. When I was Googling like Swedish cities and stuff like that, they all said the air quality is amazing. But we cannot test that in YouTube, right, or any video. So when I came here, I was like, okay, everybody talks about air quality. How good can it be? I said, I come here, like, wow. So I don't want to miss that. In the early morning, I go for a walk. It's like it energizes you a lot.
Yeah. So we're heading into the darker months now. It's already dark by about 4 p.m. now, and
Yes.
we were talking about the weather earlier, that today it's been a mixture of snow and rain here in this city in any case. How do you cope with the weather? You've had a few winters here now, Ryan. Do you find it difficult?
The darkness is a bit to get used to. That definitely is something that I hadn't seen before. As far as the cold, where I come from in Michigan, we actually have a little bit more extreme both cold
Okay.
in the winter and hot in the summer. So to me, this place is kind of a paradise as far as the weather.
It must be cold where you come from then. And what about you, Bashir? I imagine it's very, very different to the weather in Bangladesh.
Yes, I come from a tropical country, studied in another tropical country. So for the first time I saw snowfall was last year, like live snowfall. So yeah, it's environment is a little bit different. So, but I don't get cold that much somehow. I don't want to jinx it. But yeah, it's very, very, very nice when it snows and stuff like that. And when we go outside and see the houses, it looks like a postcard. And we take a picture of that. So yeah, it's an amazing experience, and the darkness and everything. What I agree with Ryan that it gets a little bit used to it. You have to get a little bit used to it. It might get like, oh, I have working or studying for like 6 hours and still it's 9 p.m. It gets to you sometimes, yes.
Yeah, it does get to you. I always appreciate the fact that it's very warm inside, no matter where you are. The houses are very well heated and insulated. But I personally, I need to try and get outside every day, even if there's just a few hours of daylight. It's important that I go for a quick walk or something just to feel like I've experienced a bit of daytime. Otherwise, I can find the darkness specifically quite difficult. So what made you consider coming to Sweden in the first place? Was it more to do with living in Sweden, or was it something specific about studying here, your programs, the university? How did you make that decision, Ryan?
A big part of what drew me here was actually the World Values Survey, which it's the culture map that they've created. They ranked Sweden in the far upper right corner of being like the most secular and self-expressive values as far as the culture. And I really liked that idea because, obviously, I don't necessarily come from that extreme of that expression, and I thought that culture would go well with my own personal ethos and mindset, and it does. So that's why I came here.
Yeah. And is there anything about living in Sweden that has been different to what you expected, or that surprised you?
As we mentioned earlier, the little amount that Swedish is needed really kind of surprised. I came here expecting to need that a whole lot more.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And what about you, Bashir? What made you come to Sweden to study? What made you choose your program and specifically?
Before I came to Sweden, I have had Swedish friends also, so they had a lot of influence over this. So they were like, "Hey, you should come to Sweden." And apart from that, I was always wanted to pursue my higher education in European countries. But when I compare to the other countries, like amount of money you spend, but the quality of education, Sweden actually is a very good choice. And if you Google any kind of positive ranking around the world, you will find Sweden in top 5. That's for sure. So I was like, it's a good opportunity. The quality of the education is super high, and I already know people here. So that all of this actually influenced me to come here. And this is and me being in Uppsala is actually suggested by one of my friends as like, you should put Uppsala number 1. And because because I shared my academic papers with him. Just to have a look, and he said like Uppsala would be perfect suit for you, and it's a better chance that you should put that at number 1. So I did, and now I'm here. So yeah.
Okay. We have a question here. How is the social life in Sweden outside the university campus? Bashir, how would you describe the social life?
Social life now, the COVID restriction is lifted, and so the socialization aspect is like more now. So in my university we have nations, which is like a community of people. They have houses, they have like activities, and they do a lot of interaction. So if you want to meet new people and do activities, that's a great way to do this. Another thing is like if you have any kind of hobbies, or if you like to do some stuff, you can just Google that on a social media, and you'll find a group that also does the same thing for you. So because of the COVID restriction is now kind of lifted, but still kind of more or less there. Most of the Uppsala is vaccinated, so you can just go around and socialize. Whatever you are looking for, you will find like-minded people here.
Okay. Ryan, how would you describe social life in Skövde?
Yeah, it's very similar. We don't have the nations that y'all do over there, but we have sections of our student union that correspond with the different schools. And I would say that those sections, as well as the local Erasmus Erasmus Student Network, rather, group, really act as kind of like this nexus into finding all of those special interest groups that Bashit was talking about. That like anything that you have an interest in, you can just look for other people, and almost guaranteed there is a group of people who is also interested in that thing, and you can get affiliated with them and do your thing, you know.
Yeah, I agree. So we've got a couple of questions about cost of living and things like that. We know that Sweden is a very expensive country compared to a lot of other countries. So when you're living on a student budget, what kind of things do you do to keep things affordable? Do you have any tips for how to save money and where to spend your money? Bashit?
So yeah, first of all, a lot of people may know or may not know that secondhand or pre-owned things, that culture is very prominent in Sweden. So there are a lot of secondhand shops for clothes and other stuff. So use that to save money. I mean, most of the time you'll find products with amazing quality or very good quality in secondhand stores. These are like all around Sweden and all around Uppsala as well. Second, another thing you can do is, because the cost of living is high and things are expensive, and when I shop for like foods and groceries and stuff like that, I look for three things, which is what is halal, what is in sale, and a discount and everything. So if something is on sale, sometimes I buy in bulk, and sometimes I go to the ICA, like supermarket and stuff like that, just to see what's on sale or not. If there's no sale, I don't buy stuff. That's just me. But in terms of like quality of the product, I believe that you get what you paid for. In that terms, like the price is sometimes justified, but it's also important to keep your budget in control when you're here as a student.
Okay. And what about you, Ryan? What kind of money saving tips do you have for students?
Make your own food.
Sorry, I forgot that.
One really good and one really bad thing at the same time about Sweden is that everybody's paid fairly. So any place that makes you food needs to pay those people appropriately, and so it can get expensive to eat out if that's your thing.
Yeah. And do you find that in Skövde you can find all of the ingredients and things like that you're used to back home?
For the most part, but I am a big fan of spicy food. And me and my other American friends I've had here have often joked that there is nothing spicy in Sweden.
I would have to agree. There's a very little spicy Swedish food, at least. Yeah. Do you enjoy Swedish food, Bahit?
Yes, I like the Swedish pastries a lot. Cinnamon dola, cannonball. The pastries are amazing. And and on that note, that the cooking and everything, I actually learned to. I didn't know how to cook. I started to learn that by watching YouTube and everything, because it was going out of hand, like expenses. So yeah, I learned how to cook after coming here. I never cooked when I was traveling outside or studying in Malaysia. Never.
Okay. Oh, well, that's another skill that you've picked up in Sweden. That's good to hear. If we go back to the academics and talk a little bit more about that, how practical is your program, and how are your courses examined? Ryan, if you could tell me a little bit about that.
So as far as the practicality of the courses, everything in the program is directly oriented towards kind of the main goal. So unlike, in some countries like the US where I come from, you'll have all these classes like American literature and stuff, which have nothing to do with your degree in bioscience or whatever. Here, that's definitely not the case. Everything is on topic. As far as the I forgot the second part of this. I'm sorry.
How are your courses? How are your courses examined?
Oh, how are they examined? Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so oftentimes, of course, you'll have the written exam, but also it kind of depends on the course, because sometimes they're examined by seminars where you just get together with a bunch of other students and you solve problems together, or sometimes it'll be a presentation or an essay, or it's always outlined in the course plan, so you always know what it is, but it can be different between classes. So a bit of variety.
Okay. And Bashit, how would you answer that question? How practical are your studies and how are your courses examined?
So information system deals a lot of about bridging technologies with organizational needs. So it's very relevant to almost all the aspects of our life. So digital technology, digitalization is part of like any organization. You cannot separate it from another. You cannot separate it because everything is somehow dependent on technology. So it is very relevant, and the course materials and the technical and non-technical aspect we have is very relevant to the market or the real people need in organizations. So it's very realistic. We look at different cases, situations, study models, which is very relevant. And regarding to how we are evaluated, it depends on our lecturer or professor. Some of them prefer to okay, you have to have a final exam at the end of the course. I also I had that a couple of days ago. So some of the lecturers is like, no, you didn't have to need that. You need to do a group project or an assignment, and then later when we submit, we get other groups as other group assignment from other groups, and we defend our point of view or our approaches so that we can, whether we did good or bad, or are we lacking something and stuff. So it's like a debate, not really a debate, or it's like more like a defense. So this is another thing we do, either that or a final exam. So it depends on the lecturer or the professor on them.
Okay. Somebody's asked how many students per class on average. How big are your classes, Bashit?
So far the biggest class I have like 45 people, but there are different. So it's only from my course, but there are subjects which is shared by different courses and stuff like that. So the class size might be bigger, like let's say 70 to 80.
Okay, well, they are big. What about you, Ryan? How many students in your classes?
It's a little bit smaller here. So my program specifically, I think, is only a handful of people. But like what Bashit said, we often have classes with other programs that overlap. So I would say in the range of 20 to maybe 30 is the most that we've seen in our classes.
Okay. And would you say that your studies are more geared towards graduating and then getting a job, or towards going on to further PhD study? Ryan?
I think that either is a valid option, but I think that a lot of students in our programs like to look for the PhDs if those are available.
Okay. We've actually got a few questions about PhD studies in Sweden, and I can tell the people watching a little bit more about that process, because it's quite different in Sweden than in other countries. Basically, PhD candidates in Sweden are considered employees of the university. So instead of applying to a PhD program like you would another like master's program, for example, you actually go onto the university websites and you look amongst the available jobs for available PhD positions. And then if you see an available PhD position that's in your area, your subject area, then you apply for it the same way that you would apply for a job. And if you are successful and you get the PhD position, then you're paid a salary to do the PhD like other employees of the university. So are either of you considering going on to do a PhD after your studies, or what are your plans after you graduate? Bashit?
I'm definitely considering going for a PhD.
Mm-hmm.
Because as you mentioned, it's not only like a course, like a master's or a program and stuff like that. It's an actual job, so you can work and get paid, and maybe you have opportunity to contribute to your field, and that's in my opinion, that's an amazing opportunity.
What about you, Ryan? What are your plans for after you graduate?
Yeah, I honestly don't know yet. I'm very interested in staying in Sweden. So like there's a lot of options in front of me. Like it would be really cool to work towards a PhD, but I also wouldn't mind going and getting a job doing research somewhere, just for an independent company, or even starting my own to develop software for doing the type of analysis that we do. So it's very up in the air for me.
Okay, but you would like to stay here if possible?
For sure. I really like it here.
Okay. Well, that's really good to hear. So when you're an international student in Sweden, this is for the audience, when you graduate, you can extend your Swedish residence permit for a period of time to enable you to look for work. And then if you're successful in finding a job, or if you start up your own company, for example, then you're able to stay in Sweden basically indefinitely. Okay, well, we're sort of towards the end of our time here. Let me see if there's any more questions that we've got from the audience, which you can answer here. Okay, yeah, this is a great question. I hear a lot of people saying that they're doing their masters in Sweden. Is Sweden a good country to do our bachelors in? Ryan, you have done your bachelors here in Sweden. What would you say to that question?
I did, and I would say that it's a great place for it. We here at the University of Skövde have 3 bachelor's programs now. One of them didn't exist when I came here, and I wish it did, because it's a bachelor's in bioinformatics, which is just, in my opinion, the absolute future of the bioscience and data science merged fields. So highly recommend that to anybody interested in bioscience.
Okay, and would you both recommend studying in Sweden as a good choice to students who are watching, who are considering their options? Bashit?
Yeah, definitely, I would recommend students, future students, to choose Sweden as their higher education destination.
Okay. And do you have any words of advice for students who are going to be coming here to commence their studies next year?
One thing I like to emphasize on, like, when you apply, please read to the instruction very carefully. These are easy to follow, and a lot of the time people don't get selected or get acceptance because of lack of papers, or we don't read the information properly. So please follow that, and there's also country-specific requirements. Make sure you follow that, and then if you have any question, there is a separate send us an email portion in universityadmission.se. So universityadmission.se. So if you there are useful tips how to apply, and if you have a specific query, you can send them an email, and then you will get a feedback as soon as possible. So that's immensely helpful for students. So finish your start early the application process. Check if you submitted everything properly. Make sure you don't left anything, and then wait for the results. And I hopefully, since people who will be watching this and now joining us live, I believe they all have the potential. Otherwise, they wouldn't be here.
And then that's great advice. Thank you very much. Ryan, seeing as you are considering extending your Swedish residence permit and looking for jobs, I see that there's some questions about the Swedish job market and how difficult it is to find a job after your studies. Are you able to share any information about that? Do you know others who have been successful in finding work here after they graduate? And do you know whether the job market in your area is very big here in Sweden?
Yes. I know particularly in my field, it certainly is,
Yeah.
because while I haven't really started looking for a job myself yet, I
Mm-hmm.
have known people both from the bachelor's program who went directly into jobs, as well as people in my current program who are already lined up for jobs
Mm-hmm.
even before graduating. So like it is a good market for sure.
Okay. And have you had much contact with the industry through your program?
A little bit. Like we've had tours and interactions with the lab at the hospital, and one of the biolabs here, Unilabs, which is located right here in town. So
Mm-hmm.
there's been some interaction. Yeah.
Okay, great. So do you have any words of advice for students who are considering applying to Sweden or who will be coming here next year to study?
Yeah. One thing that we didn't mention is the education here is kind of forgiving, and
Mm-hmm.
so like if you have exams and you fail them, you do always have an opportunity to retake that, and
Mm-hmm.
so the advice that I would give is, work hard and really like make sure that you organize yourself and use your time wisely, but don't stress. I see so many people get so much more stressed out than they need to, and like just keep your head down, push forward. That's
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a good thing that you brought that up, because that is something that's often very surprising to international students who come here, because it does differ a lot around the world, that if you fail an exam, you can retake it several times afterwards without any kind of punishment. And it's the same for handing in assignments late and things like that. I would say it's a very good thing, because the emphasis is on you learning and not you submitting something on time. However, I think it can also be incredibly difficult for students, because you have to really find the motivation to do the work by the given deadline if you don't want to have these things sort of hanging over your shoulders. So it's that's from my experience anyway.
I certainly agree.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so much. I think we've covered just about everything, and it's been really interesting talking to you both. I think you've been incredibly insightful. To everybody watching, you can find all of the information that you need to study in Sweden and to apply on our website, studyinsweden.se. There's also the Swedish application website, universityadmissions.se, that Bashit mentioned a minute ago. And then when it comes to this live stream, you'll be able to rewatch the live stream on our YouTube channel and our Facebook channel for a little while at least. And if you have any other questions that weren't answered today, you're able to comment on the videos, and myself and my colleagues will go through those questions afterwards and try and answer everything that we're able to answer. Thank you very, very much for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thanks for having us.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.